Before we begin today's recording, I just want to express gratitude for the life of D'Angelo. I am grateful that a human being with an immense measure of talent was blessed with a platform to share his art on a global scale. I am grateful that he was able to put out three well praised music projects, the last of which is one of my favorite albums ever. Those of you who followed me on other platforms before now would be familiar with my modest obsession with the Black Messiah album, especially tracks like The Charade and everyone's favorite Really Love. I hope that beyond the music, he impacted the lives closest to him positively, and they will have nothing but good memories of him. I am still in deep awe of the work he had the privilege of blessing the world with. I am tempted to go on and on about how much I love Voodoo and Black Messiah, but I literally put out a 2 hour video yesterday. I don't think I want to follow that up with a 10-hour video. But should I forget to give some of my current favorite artists and music projects their flowers publicly? Here's a quick list of a few that come to mind at the moment, okay? In the mainstream, I appreciate the efforts of the likes of Sabrina Carpenter and Somba in contributing to what feels like a refreshing revival of pure pop music with their captivating singles, though I'm not sure about their albums at this moment. I am grateful for Kendrick Lamar, who's produced many delightful projects over the course of his career, two of which are in my semi-official greatest of all time collection. I am grateful for the inspiring efforts of artists like Fiona Apple and Bjork in the alternative pop music space. Grateful for the recent works of MJ Lenderman, Mannequin P-Word, and Waxahachie for providing relatable projects that made 2024 an even more memorable year. To Sam LRC for the stunning track that is Filausha, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. To Beyonce for being the famous artist on the planet with everything to lose, yet remaining so artistically stubborn. And I could just go on and on, but I don't want time to go by. And I missed my chance at celebrating an artist publicly. I'm even thinking maybe we dedicated a few days on this channel to publicly celebrating artists, because at times we tend to forget. I have, however, started making year-end lists of my favorite songs of the year. Hopefully, starting this year, I'll be sharing those lists with you as well. I cut them down to 50 tracks and then left the remaining in a private draft playlist. But yeah, I wish D'Angelo's loved ones the best in this time. So today I want to talk about the EA Saudi Arabia situation. As is the case with these free range recordings, I tend not to do extensive research about cases I'm talking about, and rather just work with what I'm reading and hearing about a situation. And what I'm hearing about this situation is that a government agency of some sort in Saudi Arabia, right, is purchasing Electronic Arts, the company, in a multi-billion deal. If at any point I get my facts wrong, please do well to correct me in the comments. So why this news has made fans of The Sims specifically a bit confused and torn is that the government of Saudi Arabia has, according to what I've heard, engaged in multiple publicized instances of acts that can be considered human rights abuses. One that comes to mind is the 81 men mass execution headline I saw a few years ago, among the few others I've seen but have never tragically given the effort to research, because bizarre headlines pour in daily and it's hard at times to keep up. So I do not know if such actions still occur in the country, but I guess that they may still happen in some way. Okay, I'll confess to just doing a brief web search here. The AI compressed summary is that the abusive state level acts still go on, which, should that actually be the case, is very sad. Okay, mind you, I'm not trying to cast doubt in either direction. I just have a first-hand experience of a nation being misrepresented on the global scale. So I try not to say things happen for certain unless there are things I know or are glaringly true. All right. So regarding the community of the Sims players, myself included, as I also play the Sims 3, the concerns are very much valid. And this brings me to the question of the day, which I've asked a version of in a previous video, but it bears repeating given the current state of things with the Sims and EA at large. Is it moral to support monetarily a company that is engaged in immoral acts directly or indirectly? I saw a clip from a video of a Sims-based YouTuber, and he went like, well, your phones, cars, and so forth are all produced using slave labor, so what's different about this? The YouTuber, right, would needlessly go on to say that the reactions people are having now are stupid, but let's focus on that parallel, okay? A lot of our common items are produced directly with undeniably and unethical processes, okay? Prior to learning about the EA issue, this episode was going to be about veganism. It's easy to see veganism and carnivore-based diets as just options until you sit back and consider the production methods behind said options, okay? For crops, they are planted in the soil, they grow, they are harvested, and the spares and seeds are used for another batch of crops. But with meat production, you can't exactly grow things at will, because most, if not all, of the animals that are turned into meat need to mate in some way to produce offspring. There's the both are living things argument, and then there's also the sentient argument. I feel that we're only cool with eating meat as a society because of how normalized it's been. Even when we see the blood dripping out of the meat, it doesn't take us too much to ignore it and wash it off. In fact, some people leave it in even. And yes, meat is generally more nutrient dense per serving amounts in comparison to plant-based alternatives. But that isn't to say that if our ancestors had insisted on no meat consumption whatsoever, like some cultures might have, right, we would have on our own returned to meat eating. A lot of the things we do today are a result of years and years of humans prior to us experimenting with what felt right. When you're hungry, I imagine your cravings will only rush for the things your brain has already been trained to recognize as food. If we're to make the human nature argument, then why is it that we're cool with eating like cows and chickens and not rats? Okay, who I might even argue are bigger offenders because they often trespass on human dominated shelter and whatnot. So it's weird how we're able to see the moral wrong in the very things that keep us alive, because the eating of animals, as documented by researchers today, predates the eating of crops by many years. I wish somehow that human beings didn't evolve to be this way, but because the root of our very existence requires the death of another species, which is insane. So on veganism specifically, my opinion is that veganism is more moral than meat-inclusive diets. However, I do acknowledge that in terms of nutrients required for brain function, meat is often cheaper. And in the capitalism-driven world that many people live in, you cannot afford to sabotage your brain function, as that is the fundamental driving force behind your contributions to the capitalist system, which gives you the opportunity to eat. This doesn't apply to people who have the privilege of owning land and resources able to sustain their lives outside of the capitalist brouhaha. So back to EA, is the continued support moral? I mean, given that EA has been having a few controversial headlines before this announcement in terms of exploitative microtransactions, allegedly, this announcement, right, can serve as the final straw. For me, I personally would steer clear of interacting with the company in ways that promotes reported human rights abuses. Yes, I have already purchased the Sims 3 long before this announcement. So what I'm wondering now is if it's still moral to play it privately in ways that do not feed into the pockets of entities that potentially could support human rights abuses. Definitely, I feel that making gameplay videos for the game will need to come to an end, which is bittersweet, considering that the game is one of the few titles I've tried that runs effortlessly on my laptop. So for the time being, Friday specials will need to be for the creating time-lapse videos until I find something else that can run smoothly on my laptop. But yeah, that is my take. It's immoral. Obviously, that's open to debate. Maybe the headlines are misrepresenting the gravity of the situation. So please do well to correct any erroneous statements made in this video in the comment section. As for phones and cars, quick one, that opinion still stands. If the company that makes whatever phone you use is brazen enough to admit publicly to funding directly or indirectly some form of unfavorable condition of living beings, right? Do well to look into alternatives. However, with phones, let me do a little bit of deeper analysis, okay? Now, for those of us whose phones aren't instrumental to our livelihoods in the way that it would be to a, say, like a content creator of some sort, then switching to whatever ethically produced alternative would be easy. However, producing content full-time in the current state of the capitalist world would require some form of interaction with unethically produced gadgets to make a meaningful impact in the content creation space. And that's just phones as one example. There are many things we interact with that contribute negatively to either to our direct society or societies in different lands. It all goes back to the fundamentally messed up nature of human beings and many carnivorous living beings. How can our existence require the death of other beings? So, before you're quick to judge people who use phones produced by unethical companies or stream music from unethical music streaming services or play the Sims because it's their full-time job and current sole source of income in a capitalist society, think. Even if you have the privilege of not getting your hands dirty in some way to survive in a capitalist world. You needn't be too quick to judge too much, okay? It is a privilege in today's world not to need to interact with any form of unethical entity in any way. We can call it out and say, yes, said interactions are definitely immoral for a fact. But by and large, this is the byproduct of the systems our ancestors made for us. And because those who have profited, are profiting, and will continue to profit from said systems cannot let go of the powers they've either earned in heavy quotes or had bestowed with them, then the indirect meaning is therefore such systems can't ever cease to exist in the way they currently do. On paper, capitalism does sound fair, brilliant, and just about the best possible systems humans can exist under, until we get to the point we're at today, where people are stating that they are fine with their daughters getting violated, all in the name of profit. A system where, like, an American of European descent will brazenly address people of other ethnicities with derogatory language for profit. A system where a company that claims to be in support of human rights will partner with government agencies of a country that reportedly engages in human rights abuse. I could go on and on with the immoral and unfair things people have practically been forced to do because of the current state of capitalism across the globe. But then, read the definition of capitalism again. None of this is anywhere in it. Yet somehow, we're constantly pushing towards the detrimental and immoral extremities just to cope with what the system that sounds impeccable on paper has turned into. But what now? Socialism? Who knows what's best for us at this point? I can't say definitively, right, what form of system would be the best for us, as, right, part of the issues we have as humans is our perceived inability to agree on a large scale. Though this is largely as a result of things like various cultural indoctrinations, bad faith news reports, and so on. In only a few minutes, right? It's been only a few minutes, my head hurts from how messed up the world we live in is and how it simply doesn't need to be. But in all, that's my take. Yes, it's immoral to contribute to support the company, especially if you do not need to. I understand they may have done this out of fear of bankruptcy or something like that. So my hope is that they're able to pull themselves out of whatever negative economic situation they might have found themselves in without having to go through with this signing, though it appears the signing will inevitably happen. But what are your thoughts? Do you think it's immoral to support EA monetarily at this point, or are we as a society making mountains out of molehills? Mind you, calling an action immoral doesn't equate to casting judgment, especially in this kind of case. So feel free to speak openly about what you think this situation, or like what you think about this situation in this, in the comment section. I am genuinely curious about what your thoughts are on this topic. Thank you for watching and or listening to this recording. I hope to see you in the next one.